Hello again and welcome back. My name's Annie and this is my creative detour. It's time once again to do the Christmas craft for the month. On the 25th of the month for this year, I'm going to be doing a Christmas craft activity just so that I get to the end of the year and I've got supplies made rather than trying to rush and get things done at the last minute, which is what happened last year and the year before. I have been working on these for a little bit. My mother and I started this quick cards collection from Paper Rose Studios, and it's the Jolly Holidays QuickCards Collection. We started some of these before we went on the cruise, and then we've since done some more since then. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do a few things. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run through what cards I made that are the same as what Paper Rose gives you a inspo sheet for. What I like to do with the quick cards is I like to pull out 6 sheets, so one of each design, and then see how many cards I can get out of that. So I think for the cards that I made for Easter, I used 6 sheets and got 12 cards. For these ones, I used the 6 sheets, one of each design, and I've managed to make 10 cards. So 2 less, but that's okay. So what I've done is I've made an example of each of the ones on the inspo sheet, which I said, and we'll have a quick look at those. And then I've started an extra 4, so I've done the bases, but I'm actually going to decorate those on the video today with you. So let's jump in and get started, and I'll first of all go through the cards from the inspo sheet. So here we have a nice house scene, and we've got a fireplace and a little elf and celebrate the season. And this one here, you can see that it has decorative paper in the background and the flower belly band in the front. So I only managed to get 1 card out of 1 sheet for this one, and as usual I have decorated the inside of the card with some cardstock and a scrap. The next one, once again, this one I only got 1 card out of 1 sheet, and I used the pattern paper in the background, and we've got our toy soldier and exactly what was shown on the inspo sheet, except for I changed the sentiment. So from here on, for the next 4 cards, I managed to get 2 cards, which I'll go through those in a moment. The next card, here we have Santa, ho ho ho, and we've got tree, presents, and a reindeer. And you can also see on all of them so far that I've put some of the little Paper Rose crystals on there. This card here, we have a really nice town plan map in the background, which is lovely. And we've got Santa and toy soldier and a house scene around a wreath. Here we have the cardinal, and it says Merry Christmas. I did change this one out. I think that on the inspo sheet, let's have a quick look. Yes, it says Winter Wishes. Well, Winter Wishes doesn't really work for us here in Australia for Christmas because we have a summer Christmas. So I switched that one out and put Merry Christmas. The last one, we have our little Christmas gnome and a house scene and some goodies to eat. So they're pretty much probably 98% the same as the inspo sheet. However, how I managed to get the 4 extra cards is you can see that these ones, these 2 here, they've got the pattern paper as the background. And these 4 here, you can see that it actually has a red background. And that's how I managed to get the 4 extra cards. So instead of cutting the sheet in half and then using the back as the mount, I use red cardstock. So I cut red cardstock to the size of a mount, and then that means that I can use the other half to do another card. So let's bring out their partners. So these 2 don't have partners. We'll put them to the side but these 4 do. Okay, so let's have a little look at how I stretched the pack to getting 10 cards. So you can see here, here's our Santa sheet, and here it is here. I cut this one down and cut just beyond his elbow, and instead of using the back of this sheet as the background, you can see that I mounted them on red cardstock. And I will decorate this one with something else. So we'll put him over here to the side. Then the next one that I did was our bow. So you can see with this one, there's our sheet. I've cut that one down and then centered my bow and decorated this one as per the Inspo sheet. And this one's waiting to be done. So we'll put him up there with that one. The next one is our bell. So once again, I cut the sheet down the middle or close to the middle and used both sides of it. I didn't use the back. I decorated the cardinal, and this one's waiting to be done. I'll pop him up there. And then lastly, here's our poinsettia scene. You can see that I cut this one from this sheet, cut it down the middle, and decorated the one from the Inspo sheet and have this one to do. Okay, so they're the Inspo sheet ones. So the only thing I changed was the sentiment, so it was more relevant to our Australian climate. So I'll pop those ones to the side and I'll set up and get ready to decorate these ones. I've got the crystals from Paper Rose Studios just put in a little container. For Santa here, I tried lots of different things on it. I tried some other die cuts from the embossed die cuts kit that I've got. I tried some fussy cut elements that I've got from the same collection. And I just, every time I put something on, it just seemed cluttered. And I ended up just deciding that I'm going to just put a sentiment on this one and let Santa be the hero, because, you know, he's crying out here to be the hero. So this one's very easy. I am going to come back through at the end of the video and put some glossy accents, and I'll put the crystals on. So I'm just going to park him there. That's all that I wanted to do with that one. For the next one, I pulled out our lovely reindeer gentleman here. He's very grand. I also pulled out the bell out of the die cuts, embossed die cuts in the set, and just this sentiment that says Merry Christmas to you. So I'm going to stick them down. So all those elements came out of the QuickCards Collection embossed die cuts. So here you can see I have the embossed die cuts that came with the collection, and I'm actually just going to snip off some of this cardstock here and use it as packing, because it's the same thickness as our die cuts. So I'm using that to pack out what I want. So I'm just going to line this up, work out the position. So I'm happy with it. He can probably come down a little bit. I'm just going to snip off those little nubby bits, the little tabs, before I glue it down, because sometimes they look a little bit average. Okay, some news. What news do I have? Well, my craft room was an absolute mess. For those of you that are new, welcome. I've got a few new subscribers, so welcome to the channel. And for those of you that are returning, thanks for tuning in again. And for those of you that are returning, you would know that I've mentioned before that my youngest son moved to Europe just before Christmas. He set up the channel for me, but he used to live in sort of like a little self-contained flat on the side of our house. And he's lived there for many, many years. And when he decided to go over to Europe to work, he he moved out, obviously. And we were in the situation of going, well, what are we going to do with the flat? Are we going to rent it out to somebody, or are we going to take some of the space back for ourselves? We decided that we were going to claim some of the space back. Now, if you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm just cutting some of the scraps up and packing out the front of the card so that these all sit lovely and flat. And then when I stack them together and package them together and they're pushing on each other, they're not going to bend, and the die cuts are not going to go all bent and damaged. In the Christmas holidays, my husband, some of you may have seen the videos where I was commenting about my husband pulling a wall out. So my husband pulled out a wall, put in some sliding doors, and we opened up from my craft room to my son's old lounge room or living room in his flat. So it now gives a lovely big amount of space to my craft room. However, it's not going to be claimed as craft space. We're going to actually use it as a second living area and put, like the television in there, and so we could do some movies with the grandkids and have a little bit more space. So that was all great. My husband did a great job of doing that, but it didn't get completely finished. So while he was knocking out walls, he had to move quite a lot of my shelving in my craft room to put the wall in, the cavity slider wall in, the new doors in, and so on and so on. So to make it so that the cavity sliders would work, and you get the gist. He then went back to work. So he got the wall built, but not painted and not finished or anything like that. And my craft shelving that had been moved to do that had not come back into my craft room. So for the last, term of school, some of my craft supplies have been in the other room in my son's old lounge room, which is not, it's not far away. Like it's the next room to this room, but now we've got access to it. All right, I'll come back to that story in a moment, but here we go. So you can see that I've just built that up and it's sitting lovely and flat now. And here we have our nice deer. He is very majestic almost, isn't he? The bell and the Merry Christmas to you. So that's that one. We'll put some gems on that in a moment. Now the next one is the bell. And because it's so dominant here, I wanted to pare it back a bit. So I'm just going to put this nice candle here and a sentiment. So very easy. Yeah, so for the last term of school, nothing's really happened, which is fine because everyone's busy and, we're all back at work and the holidays are finished, and it's a little bit hard to do something major on 2 days on a weekend. Once we got back from our cruise, I said to my husband, do you think that we could maybe move some of the shelving back into my craft room so that, it's a little bit more organized, because not only is the shelving moved, but all of the supplies are all disrupted and they're not in any order. And he said, sure. So it wasn't just a case of moving the shelving, because obviously I've lost a wall as well, because we've opened up a wall and put in 2 cavity sliders that creates a really big, lovely opening to the living space. But that means that I've lost a wall that I can put shelving on or whatever. There we go, there's that one. Nice and simple, and we'll put some other things on in a moment. So we had to rearrange some of the shelving and sort out what I was going to do to increase my storage space. So he was so wonderful in that he, in one of the cupboards that's here, that just has long space in it to put vacuums and brooms and other things. He took out all of that sort of storage system. Now, as you can see here, I've just pulled out a few things and I'm decorating this. Actually, I just want to say that the fireplace here that I'm going to use and this candle on this one, I actually didn't get them out of the embossed die cuts that came with the QuickCards collection. I got them from the embossed die cuts kit number 2, Jolly Holidays number 2, because I purchased this when I bought the collection just to have some extras. So those 2 items are from here. All of the other items that I'm using are from the QuickCards collection. So back to the story. So he rejigged the cupboard and put a whole heap of shelving in for me, which is amazing, and put some extra shelving opposite me where we did have the shelving system. And he's beefed up all of my capacity of storage, which is exactly what I needed. However, I now have stuff everywhere that I've got to sort out. And for those of you that watched the video where I was doing some craft with my grandson, I think my grandson actually commented about how much mess was around that I had to tidy up, because I have stuff everywhere, to be honest. But as you know, when you're moving things around in your craft room, it's great, but it's a bit problematic because you move one thing and it's a snowball effect. Like you think, oh, I'll put that there, and to do that, I've got to move this. And then you think, oh, I'll put that wherever. And then before you know it, you've got almost everything out that you're rejigging and moving around. So I've got a bit of a job to do, really, to get it all back in order. And for those of you that are a little bit older, like I'm in my late 50s, you probably find that I can remember where I had things in my craft room exactly 5 years ago when it was in a different location than it is now. But once I move something, I don't necessarily remember where I've put it in the new location. And I know for some people that might sound really weird. You're reorganizing. Why can't you remember where you put it? But for some reason you just can't. You can remember things where they were and where you could have put your hands on it, 5 years ago. But then when you move things around and you can't, you think, now, where did I put that? All right, so you can see that I'm just packing out this again with a little bit of scrap. Not too fussy about it, it's not covering everywhere. I don't need it to cover everywhere. I just need it to pack it a bit. Okay, I'm just going to glue that one on. That looks quite nice. Happy holidays with a fireplace and a stocking. We don't light fireplaces here at Christmas because living in Brisbane, it's usually, close to 30 degrees or high 20s, and the humidity is usually around about, well, it feels like it's at 100%, but it's probably around in the 90s. So sometimes we have the fireplace crackling and an image on the TV. You know, you go onto YouTube and you find a lovely Christmas um, fireplace video that goes for 4 hours, and you put it on in the background and it plays Christmas carols. So sometimes we do that. Okay, I'm going to put a few crystals on this now. So I just tip them into the lid, work out where I want a few, and I usually try and put them in, for example, here this image is sort of starting up here and traveling down to this point. That's what your eye is doing. It's going this direction down to this point here. So I tend to try and work with that. If I put them in the opposite corners, it's moving your eye across the composition rather than in a flow. So here we have this. Here's a good example. Our feature is here, and then we have another one to the left. So our direction is going this way. So I'll probably put a few up here and one down here. So it draws your eye down and keeps that angle going. With this one here, it's a little bit unusual because we've got a center composition and then one to the side. So I wouldn't put the crystals up here. I'll put them across here so that it assists with giving that angled eye movement. On this one, similar thing. We've got our Santa as the feature. I've put it here. I really should have put it over to the left, but it didn't look right. I tried it there. It didn't look right because of the tree. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to beef up this view and try and pull away a little bit from this. And here we have a centered composition. So I'll probably, with this one, keep the crystals in tight rather than them out further. I'll probably keep them tighter and do it in a little bit of a asymmetrical triangle. So that's the plan. So I'm just going to put some dots on. Let's do this one first. I'll put a little dot and down here, and I'll just pick up a few crystals. They are different sizes. I think there's 3 or 4 different sizes. Okay, so you can see that I just did an asymmetrical triangle, and it sort of pops there and draws your eye down, helps with drawing your eye down. So back to my story about the craft room. I have now got quite a lot of things that I need to move and relocate and sort out, which is fine, but while you're doing that, it also means that you're not crafting. So here you can see I put 2 up here near the sign and then 1 down here to try and tie them together. Our bell, let's put a few on here. I'm going to just put a dot of glue above the top there, down the side, and I'm going to put 1 here. They will dry. And the last one, like I said, to create that movement down from left to right up here, I'm probably just going to put 1 over here, 1 over here, and 1 down here. And in groups of 3 and different sizes. These crystals, I think I've mentioned before this, they're so inexpensive. I've had them for ages, and I don't seem to have made a dent in the supply at all. I must use the middle-sized ones a lot more than the small. We have a lot of smalls, and I'm using up the middle size, but that's all right. I think they're probably around 6 or 7 Australian dollars, and I think there's 400 in it from memory. I don't really remember, to be honest, but if you go on the website, I'll put a link down below to the website. Okay, so I've put those on. Now what I'm going to do now is, with the embossed die cuts, Paper Rose does this lovely glossy treatment. I'll move it around so you can see it. There's a lovely glossy treatment on the ephemera, on the die cuts. And I've looked at it quite a bit and thought, I'm going to put some glossy accents on the things that don't have it and see how to do it. So I have done it on previous cards that I've shown on different videos. All I do is I go into the shadows a little bit and highlight it and move it. And I kind of do it a little bit scratchy, to be honest. I don't cover everything. I'll put a line, put a little bit of accents where there is depth, just to make it stand out a little bit. And sometimes I also put it on like things like berries, or because it comes out in a circular way. And with the berries and the circular things, I try not to touch the page. I try to just drop it and keep the form of the blob. Sometimes I just pull out some of the horizontal bits and then I leave it. So you can see that with the bell, at the moment it's milky because it's not set. And technically you're meant to leave this for 24 hours to set. So I'll put that to the side now, and I won't play with it. I won't do anything until lunchtime tomorrow, and then I'll check it. And if you stand it up, it will run a little bit, but if you lay it flat, it will sort of still keep the form. So let's try again. I'm going to do a little bit on our soldier here, just going around some of the shadows, some of the little details on his coat and on his hat. I'll probably put some on his eyes and a little bit on some of his paraphernalia, his boots, a little bit on the gems in his hat. That will do. I might just do a little bit across his chest. Because if you look at the die cuts from Paper Rose, they're not all coloured in with the gloss. Like if you look at this one here, that's the die cut, and it's got some glossiness on the candle. It's on the darker bits and around the edges or around the lips of things, and then the underside of the cones. So it's similar thing. I've tried to do it a little bit in the darker areas, and I'll just let that sit. With this one, I'm just going to put a little bit on the shadows in the bow and around, not in the highlights, but in the edges, and then some of the vegetation. And there we go. I'm not sure whether you can see that. So I'm just going to keep going, and I'll probably bring you back in once I've got this done. Okay, there's Santa. You can see I've put it a little bit on his coat, a little bit on his buckle, his hat, and around his beard just randomly, and then some of the foliage. And this one, I don't need to do anything because it's already got it on. Okay, let's clear the decks, and I'll lay them all out, and so that you can do a screenshot if you want to, and then do a zoom in. So let's tidy up and set that up for you. Okay, here we go. So we've got our 10 cards from 6 sheets, and I got 10 cards because I used a red cardstock as a mount on 8 of the cards. And yeah, I then just decorated them. So I've got 4 new cards and 6 of the cards from the Inspo sheet. And hopefully you've found the video today helpful with some of those tips of using the glossy accents and positioning so that your eye moves across the composition. So if you liked the video today, give it a thumbs up and think about subscribing and ringing the bell so you know when I'm posting next. All right, that's it for today, and I will see you all very soon. Have a wonderful weekend, and bye for now.